Welcome back to the deep dive. I was looking at a map of South Asia this morning, just kind of staring at it, and it hit me. We usually treat geography like a catalog.
Oh, absolutely. Here's a mountain, there's a river.
Exactly. Memorize the capital, move on. It feels so static. Like a board game that never changes.
That's how most of us were taught, unfortunately. It was all about memorization, not really understanding the why.
Yes. I mean, if you really stop and look at it, geography isn't just the background scenery. It is the stage. I mean, it's the physical, rugged, unyielding stage where the entire drama of our history, our economics, our culture, it all plays out.
That's a great way to put it.
You can't understand why the Mauryan Empire stopped where it did, or why the British built railways where they did, or even why we eat rice in the east and wheat in the north, without understanding the terrain right under our feet.
That is beautifully put. It's the whole concept of geography as destiny. The Himalayas aren't just snow, they're a climate wall. The coastline isn't just a beach, it's a portal for trade.
And that is exactly what we are doing today. We are not just reading a textbook. We're trying to crack the code for one of the most foundational topics for anyone interested in the Indian subcontinent. We are dissecting the NCERT Class 6 Geography, Chapter 7, titled Our Country, India.
And before you roll your eyes and think, Class 6? I graduated elementary school decades ago. Let me just stop you right there.
Yeah.
This specific chapter, I'm not kidding, is the bedrock for some of the most complex questions in the UPSC examinations.
Really?
Yeah, I have a stack of past year questions, or PYQs, sitting right here on my desk, and they range from 2013 all the way to 2025.
Which is just wild, right? That a question asked to a 25-year-old aspiring bureaucrat in 2025 has its answer, or at least the seed of its answer, hidden in a book written for an 11-year-old.
It happens every single year. The details in this chapter, specifically about, say, river flows, island compositions, mountain ranges, they often trip people up because they assume they know the basics. They just skim, they miss the nuance, and boom, they lose the marks.
So that is our mission today, to take this foundational text and squeeze every single drop of insight out of it. We are doing this special session for Simplified UPSC by PPP.
A huge welcome to everyone listening, whether you're commuting, at the gym, or maybe even sitting with your atlas open right now.
And we have to take a quick second here to humbly ask you, yes, you, listening right now, to please subscribe to the YouTube channel. It really, truly helps us keep these deep dives coming.
It makes a huge difference.
It really does. And if you are capable, and only if you're in a position to, supporting us on Patreon is a massive help. It allows our team to keep curating these stacks of research and creating this super useful content.
And on that note, we absolutely have to give a heartfelt shout out to all our current supporters and patrons. You are the fuel behind this content creation. We literally couldn't do this level of research without you.
So please, smash that like button and share your valuable comments below. Specifically, I really want to know, what's the one geographical fact about India that always just blows your mind? Drop that in the comments.
Oh, that's a good one. Also, for the serious learners out there, we want to let you know that free notes and practice PYQs linked to this specific deep dive are available on our Telegram channel.
And if you want the all-access pass, so that's access to all the videos in this series at once, plus the organized premium notes, which have detailed breakdowns, extra PYQs, and model mains answers, you should join the private Telegram library.
How do they do that?
You can just DM us on the public Telegram channel to join that.
Okay, I think housekeeping is done. Let's get to it. Let's look at the map.
Let's do it. Our country, India. So the source material starts with a very broad brush, painting India as a country of vast geographical expanse. But let's, contextualize that word vast.
Right. It's huge, but it's also very clearly contained. The text frames it immediately by its natural boundaries. In the north, it says you're bound by the lofty Himalayas.
Yeah, Great Wall.
The Great Wall, exactly. In the west, you have the Arabian Sea. In the east, the Bay of Bengal. And of course, in the south, the Indian Ocean.
It creates a really distinct geometric shape. It's a peninsula.
Right. A piece of land surrounded by water on three sides. But think about the implication of that for a second. Because we are a peninsula just jutting out into the Indian Ocean, India becomes this inevitable stopping point for trade routes.
All the roads connecting the Middle East and Africa to East Asia.
They have to pass us. Our geography basically forces the world to deal with us.
We are essentially a massive pier sticking out to the world's busiest ocean. Okay, let's talk numbers. The source gives us the area, 3.28 million square kilometers.
That's a number you just have to kind of file away in your brain, 3.28 million square kilometers. It sounds massive, doesn't it?
It does. But here's the kicker. If you look at the global data, That 3.28 million square kilometers is only about 2.4% of the world's total land area.
And yet we support nearly 18% of the world's population on that land.
Exactly. That's the density story right there.
Yeah.
We are squeezing a massive chunk of humanity into a relatively small percentage of land. The text also notes the linear distances. From Kashmir in the north to Kanyakumari in the south, it's about 3,200 kilometers.
And from Arunachal Pradesh in the east to Kush in the west, what's that distance?
About 2,900 kilometers. So we're a bit taller than we are wide, but not by much. It's a fairly balanced diamond shape.
And the source material really highlights the diversity contained within those kilometers. It lists lofty mountains, the Great Indian Desert, the northern plains, the uneven plateau surface, and the coasts and islands.
It's basically a greatest hits album of every geological feature on Earth. I mean, we have the frozen cryosphere in the north, the scorching arid zone in the west, the tropical humid zone in the south, and the fertile riverine lands right in the middle.
And the text pivots beautifully from that physical diversity to human diversity. It says there is a great variety in climate, vegetation, and wildlife, but also in language and culture.
And then it drops that classic line. In this diversity, we find unity that is reflected in traditions that bind us as one nation.
It creates a nice narrative arc. But practically speaking, for governance, this diversity is a huge challenge. How do you make a single policy for a farmer in the Thar Desert and a fisherman in Kerala?
You can't.
The geography itself demands a federal structure, which I'm sure we'll touch on later.
Okay, let's zoom out to the satellite view, the global address. If you had to mail a letter to India on a planetary scale, where are we?
First big checkbox, we are in the northern hemisphere, entirely north of the equator.
But the specific coordinates provided in the text are crucial. These numbers, latitude and longitude, they aren't just random digits. They tell a story about heat and time.
Let's start with latitude. The text says the mainland extends from 8 degrees 4 Fn to 37 degrees 6 Fn.
Okay, so 8 degrees 4 minutes north. That's the southern tip, Kanyakumari.
Right, and 8 degrees is very close to the equator, which is at 0 degrees. This means the southern part of India is bathed in direct sunlight for most of the year. It's tropical.
Coconuts and humidity.
Exactly. And then you go all the way up to 37 degrees 6 minutes north. That's Kashmir.
A completely different world.
By the time you get to 37 degrees, you are well outside the tropics. The sun's rays are slanting, the winters are harsh. You've literally moved from coconut trees to pine trees just by walking north.
And the text mentions the Tropic of Cancer, 23 degrees 30 Patharine, passes almost halfway through the country.
That line is the divider. It's so important. South of the Tropic of Cancer is what they call the torrid zone. It's tropical, it's hot. North of it is the subtropical or temperate zone.
So that's why when we talk about Indian climate, we can't just say it's hot.
No, it depends entirely on which side of that imaginary line you are standing.
Okay, now let's talk about the longitude. The east-west spread.
From 68 degrees 7E in Gujarat to 97 degrees 25E in Arunachal Pradesh.
That's a spread of about 29 degrees. Now here is where it gets really interesting. The text brings up the time lag dilemma.
Oh yeah, this is a favorite concept for examiners because it mixes math and geography. It's a classic.
Walk us through the math.
Okay. The Earth is a sphere, 360 degrees. It rotates once in 24 hours. So if you just divide 360 by 24, you get 15. The Earth rotates 15 degrees every hour.
Or, as the text simplifies it, local time changes by 4 minutes for every 1 degree of longitude.
Right. So if India is roughly 30 degrees wide, you just do the math. 30 degrees times 4 minutes to a degree is 120 minutes.
2 hours.
Exactly. The text states it very clearly. There is a time difference of about 2 hours between the extreme east and the extreme west.
Let's visualize what that actually means for a person living there. If the sun rises at, say, 6:00 a.m. in Gujarat.
It has already risen at 4 a.m. in Arunachal Pradesh. They're 2 hours ahead in terms of sunlight.
That's wild. So you're in Arunachal, it's 4:00 a.m., the sun is blazing, but your watch, which is set to Indian Standard Time, says it's still the middle of the night.
And conversely, in the evening, the sun sets around 4:30 p.m. or 5:00 p.m. in the northeast during winter. It gets dark incredibly early, but all the offices and schools are still running on Delhi time, which assumes there is still plenty of daylight.
This leads to that whole debate about the tea garden time or chai bagan time.
Yeah.
Yes. For over a century, tea gardens in Assam have operated on their own local time, usually an hour ahead of IST, just to maximize daylight productivity. And there have been serious demands for a separate time zone for the Northeast to save energy and align with, people's natural body clocks.
The government has always said no.
Because of the confusion. The text explains the solution India adopted. To avoid confusion, we have accepted the local time of the 82° 30' longitude as the standard.
The standard meridian of India, the line that passes near Mirzapur, near Allahabad.
Right. If we had two time zones, can you just imagine the chaos for the railway network? A train crossing that imaginary line would have to jump an hour. In a country with, high illiteracy and incredibly complex logistics, a single time zone is seen as an administrative necessity.
Even if it's a geographical inconvenience for people living on the extreme edges.
It's a classic case of political unity overriding geographical reality. We compromise. We pick the middle line, 82.5 degrees east, and the whole nation synchronizes their watches to that one point.
Okay, moving from the address to the neighbors. The source text asks us to look at the map, specifically figure 7.1. It states there are 7 countries that share land boundaries with India.
This is neighborhood first policy in map form. If we go clockwise from the west, you've got Pakistan and Afghanistan.
Wait, Afghanistan? I thought we didn't practically share a border with them.
This is a crucial nuance. Politically and constitutionally, India claims the entire region of Jammu and Kashmir, which includes Gilgit-Baltistan, currently under Pakistan's occupation. The Wakhan corridor of Afghanistan touches that northern tip.
So on official maps...
On official maps, for the government of India and in the insert, Afghanistan is our neighbor.
Got it. So Pakistan, Afghanistan, then moving east.
China, obviously. Then you have Nepal and Bhutan, kind of nestled in the Himalayas. Then Myanmar in the Far East. And finally, Bangladesh, which is almost completely hugged by India.
The source poses a question right here. How many of these countries do not have access to any ocean or sea?
It's asking about landlocked countries. That would be Afghanistan, Nepal, and Bhutan.
Yep. And this has massive economic implications for them.
Huge. If you are Nepal or Bhutan, you cannot ship goods to Europe or America without going through someone else's territory. And who is that someone else? India.
So their entire economy is reliant on transit treaties with India to access our ports, like Kolkata.
Precisely. Geography gives India tremendous leverage and also a huge responsibility over these neighbors. We are literally their gateway to the world.
Okay, then we have the neighbors who aren't touching our land but are just across the water, the island neighbors.
Sri Lanka and the Maldives.
The text mentions a very specific feature regarding Sri Lanka, the Palk Strait.
Palk. It's named after Robert Palk, a colonial governor, but the geography is ancient. It separates India from Sri Lanka.
And people often confuse a strait with an isthmus. Can we just quickly clarify that?
Sure. An isthmus is a narrow strip of land connecting two larger land masses, like Panama. A strait is a narrow passage of water connecting two larger water bodies, like the Palk Strait connects the Bay of Bengal to the Palk Bay.
And it's incredibly shallow, right?
Very shallow. This is where the Ram Setu, or Adams Bridge, is located. The water is so shallow in places that large ships actually have to sail all the way around Sri Lanka rather than cutting through.
Which has led to those huge debates about the Sethusamudram shipping canal project.
Exactly. Do we dredge it to save time and money? Or do we protect the marine ecology and heritage? Again, a simple geographical fact leading to a complex modern debate.
It always comes back to that.
Always.
Okay, let's look inward now at the political divisions. The text says, for administrative purposes, the country is divided into 29 states and 9 union territories. Now, I know our listeners are probably screaming at their speakers right now because that number has changed.
Yes, the source text reflects a specific snapshot in time. It says 29 states because it accounts for the creation of Telangana in 2014. But after the revocation of Article 370 in 2019, J&K was reorganized into 2 union territories. So the current real-world count is 28 states and 8 union territories.
But for the purpose of this deep dive, we're sticking to the concepts in the source. And the text has a very, very important sentence about how these states are formed.
It says, the states have been formed mainly on the basis of languages.
Why is this such a big deal? I mean, why not just draw straight lines like they did in the USA?
Because straight lines ignore culture. In the U.S., lines were drawn on maps of land that was, from the colonizer's perspective, unclaimed. In India, people had been living here for millennia with deep, powerful linguistic identities. A Tamil speaker feels culturally distinct from a Telugu speaker.
So after independence, there was chaos over this.
Absolute chaos. The Padishramulu hunger strike, the riots. The government realized that to keep India united, they had to recognize these differences. The States Reorganization Act of 1956 basically redrew the map of India to align borders with linguistic zones.
It's so counterintuitive. You divide the land to unite the people.
Exactly. By giving each major language its own political home, you reduce the fear of cultural dominance by another group. The NCERT sums this up with unity and diversity, but the administrative reality is that we manage diversity by institutionalizing it.
Okay, let's shift gears to the physical landscape. The text lists the main physical divisions: mountains, plateaus, plains, coasts, and islands.
And starts right at the top. The Sentinel of the North, the Himalayas.
The text breaks down the word itself. Him plus Alaya means the abode of snow.
Right, it describes them as lofty, snow-capped Himalayas. But let's get into the structure. The text divides the Himalayas into three main parallel ranges.
Three ranges, like layers of a massive defense wall.
First, the northernmost range. The text calls it the Great Himalaya, or Himadri.
Himadri. This is the big one, the main event.
The biggest. The text says the world's highest peaks are located in this range. We're talking Mount Everest, K2, Kanchenjunga, they're all here.
And because they are so incredibly high, they are perpetual snow.
Which means they are the source of glaciers. They are giant, frozen reservoirs of fresh water.
Then we move south to the second layer.
That's the Middle Himalaya, or Himachala. This lies just to the south of Himadri. And the key feature mentioned here is many popular hill stations are situated here.
So this is where you go on vacation. Shimla, Manali, Nainital, Mussoorie.
Exactly. If you're a tourist, this is usually your destination. The Himadri is for hardcore mountaineers. The Himachala is for vacationers.
And the third and final layer.
That would be the southernmost range, the Shualik. These are the foothills. They are much lower and are basically made of loose sediments washed down from the higher ranges.
So they're less stable.
Much less stable. They're essentially the rubble pile at the bottom of the Great Wall, which is why they're so prone to landslides.
Now, you mentioned earlier that this Class 6 text connects to really complex UPSC questions. How does this Himalayan section connect?
Well, consider the 2020 GS Paper 1 mains question. It asked, and I'm quoting here, how will the melting of Himalayan glaciers have a far-reaching impact on the water resources of India?
Wow. That's a direct link to that Himadri and abode of snow concept.
It is. The NCERT establishes the Himalayas as the abode of snow. That snow is a frozen reservoir. It releases water slowly and consistently throughout the summer, keeping the rivers flowing even when it doesn't rain.
So if the glaciers melt away due to climate change,
The reservoir bursts. First, you get catastrophic floods from too much water melting at once. Then, once the ice is gone for good, you get crippling droughts because there's no stored water to release in the summer.
the perennial rivers become seasonal.
Exactly. The text sets up the Himalayas as the source. The exam asks you to predict what happens when that source fails. It's terrifying. It's not just about losing pretty snow peaks. It's about the water security of 500 million people.
And all that water flows down into the next physical division the text mentions, the northern Indian plains.
Right. The text locates them to the south of the Himalayas. Describe them.
Generally level and flat. That's the text description.
Level and flat. It sounds kind of boring compared to the majestic mountains.
It really does.
But economically, it is arguably the most important place on the subcontinent. The text explains they are formed by alluvial deposits laid down by the rivers, the Indus, the Ganga, the Brahmaputra, and all their tributaries.
Alluvial deposits. That's the fancy term for the silt, mud, and nutrient-rich soil that the river carries down from the mountains.
Imagine the Himalayas are being slowly ground down into dust by the rivers. The water carries that nutrient-rich dust and spreads it out like a giant, fertile carpet over the foothills. That carpet is the northern plains.
And because it's level and flat and the soil is new and rich.
It is absolutely perfect for farming. The text explicitly says this is why there is a high concentration of population in these plains.
It's the engine of India. Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, West Bengal, Punjab. This is where the people are.
High density? Absolutely. Fertile land equals abundant food. Abundant food equals population growth. It's a very simple equation.
And this connects to a 2025 GS Paper 1 question in our source stack, right?
Yes. The question asks about non-farm primary activities and how they relate to physiographic features.
Non-farm, so not agriculture.
Right. But think about it. If you have a flat plain with a massive population density, which is there thanks to agriculture, what else do you have?
A massive labor force, a huge market.
And the perfect setup for transport. Roads are incredibly easy to build on flat land. Railways are cheap to lay down.
Unlike in the mountains or the uneven plateau.
Exactly. So because of the level and flat nature mentioned in the NCERT, you get connectivity. Connectivity plus a high population equals markets, industries, and trade hubs. So the geography of the plains doesn't just support farms, it supports the logistics and labor for everything else.
Moving from the lush, crowded plains to the complete opposite, the Great Indian Desert.
Located in the western part of India, mostly Rajasthan. The text is brutal in its brevity here. It just says, it is a dry, hot, and sandy stretch of land. It has very little vegetation.
Why is it there? I mean, why is one side of India a lush farm and the other side a scorching desert?
It's largely about the Aravalli Hills acting as a barrier, or rather, failing to act as one in the right way. The monsoon winds from the Arabian Sea actually travel parallel to the Aravallis. They don't get blocked or forced upwards, so they just slide by without dropping their rain.
Interesting. So the mountains actually steer the rain away from the region.
But look at the 2020 GS Paper 1 question. It asks, the process of desertification does not have climatic boundaries. Justify with examples.
Okay, so desertification versus desert, what's the difference?
The Great Indian Desert, described in the text, is a natural feature. It is supposed to be there. Nature made it. Desertification is when fertile land turns into a desert, usually due to human abuse, overgrazing, deforestation, sucking out all the groundwater.
So the exam is asking about the spread of desert-like conditions into places where they don't belong.
Exactly. You use the NCERT definition to identify the natural core, which is the Thar. Then you look at the fringes places in Haryana, Punjab, northern Gujarat. If those areas start looking dry, hot, and sandy, like the text describes, that's desertification. That is a man-made disaster.
Okay, let's head south again. We hit the Peninsular Plateau.
This is the oldest part of India. The text describes it as being triangular in shape.
And the terrain.
Highly uneven. Unlike the flat northern plains, this is a landscape that has been crumpled up. It's full of hills, valleys, and plateaus on top of other plateaus.
And it mentions the Aravalli Hills specifically, bordering it on the northwest side.
And it drops a massive fact right there. The Aravalli Range is one of the oldest ranges of the world.
Oldest in the world, so older than the Himalayas.
Much, much older. The Himalayas are geological babies. They're called young-fold mountains. The Aravallis are the grandfathers. They used to be as high as the Himalayas millions of years ago, but eons of wind and rain have worn them down to just stumps.
It's called residual mountains, right?
That's the term. What's left over. Now, inside this plateau, there are some specific ranges mentioned that are super important. The Vindhyas and the Satpuras.
And these cut right across the middle of India.
They do. And here is where it gets really interesting for prelims. The text says, the rivers Narmada and Tapi flow through these ranges.
Okay.
Now, listeners, pay very close attention here. The text then notes, these are west-flowing rivers that drain into the Arabian Sea.
Why is that weird? Why is that a big deal?
Because almost every other major river in peninsular India, the Godavari, Krishna, Kaveri, Mahanadi, they all flow east. They flow into the Bay of Bengal.
Why do they flow east?
Because the whole Deccan Plateau is slightly tilted. Think of it like a big table that is slightly higher on the west side and lower on the east. If you pour water on it, it's all going to run east.
So gravity pulls them east, but Narmada and Tapi flow west against the tilt. Are they defying gravity?
They're not defying gravity. They're following a different geological command.
And here we have a major PYQ alert. This is from the 2013 Prelims Paper 1.
Yep. The question asked, almost directly, the Narmada River flows to the west, while most other large peninsular rivers flow to the east. Why?
And the answer is hidden in this Class 6 textbook.
It is. The answer is the Rift Valley. The NCERT text says they flow through the Vindhya and Satpura ranges. Geologically, there's a giant crack in the earth there, a linear rift valley. The land between two fault lines subsided. It sank.
Okay, so imagine a block of cheese. You slice it twice, and you push the middle piece down. That sunken part is the valley.
That's the perfect analogy. The Narmada River is trapped in that trough. It has to flow west because the slope of the trough itself goes west, even if the rest of the plateau around it tilts east.
Wow. That is a classic example of how a simple sentence in NCERT flow through these ranges hides a really complex geological mechanism that you need to know for the exam.
And the plateau is also bordered by Ghats on either side.
The Western Ghats, also called the Sayadris, and the Eastern Ghats.
And the text highlights a key structural difference. It says, While the Western Ghats are almost continuous, the Eastern Ghats are broken and uneven.
Why the difference? Did the eastern ones get smashed up or something?
They got eroded. Remember those big east-flowing rivers we just talked about? Godavari, Krishna, Kaveri?
Yeah, they flow east to the Bay of Bengal.
Right, and to get to the ocean, they have to get past the Eastern Ghats. Over millions of years, these massive rivers have literally carved their way through the mountains, creating wide gaps and valleys. They turn a solid wall into a broken fence.
So the rivers destroyed the mountains.
Erosion is an incredibly powerful force. The Western Ghats are continuous because no major rivers cut through them from east to west. The rivers start from them and flow away, either east or west.
The text also mentions a resource detail. The plateau is rich in minerals like coal and iron ore.
Yes, this is the industrial heartland of India, the Chota-Nagpur Plateau region, sometimes called the Ruhr of India.
And we have another PYQ link, 2020 GS Paper 1 again. The question was, account for the present location of iron and steel industries away from the source of raw material by giving examples.
This is an evolution of industry question,
Yeah.
but you have to know where they started. Historically, the big steel plants like Tata Steel in Jamshedpur were set up right on top of the plateau. Why?
Because, as the Class 6 text says, that's where the iron ore and coal are. You don't want to transport heavy rocks farther than you absolutely have to.
Exactly. The industry started there because of the geology described in this very chapter. The exam question asks why it's now moving away from there towards ports and markets. But you can't answer the change part if you don't know the origin. And the origin is this mineral-rich plateau.
Okay, let's move to the edges of the country. The coastal plains.
We have the western coastal plains and the eastern coastal plains.
The text makes a comparison. The western plains are very narrow. The eastern plains are much broader.
And that broadness is due to the deltas. Those big, long, east-flowing rivers carry tons and tons of silt, and when they reach the coast and slow down, they dump all that silt. It builds up new land.
It creates a delta. And the text highlights the Sundarban Delta specifically.
Yes, formed where the Ganga and Brahmaputra flow into the Bay of Bengal. It is the world's largest delta.
And the name Sundarban comes from the Sundari tree, right? A type of mangrove.
Correct. It's a critical ecological zone. Those mangrove forests are the first line of defense against cyclones coming in from the Bay of Bengal.
Okay, finally, we have the islands. The text splits them into two distinct groups.
First, in the Arabian Sea, we have Lakshadweep.
And the text gives it a very specific, very important label, Coral Islands.
This is crucial. It says Coral Islands located off the coast of Kerala.
Why is that label coral so important? It's not just a pretty adjective, is it?
Not at all. It defines their entire geology. PYQ alert. 2014 prelims, paper 1. Question 41 asked to identify regions in India that have coral reefs.
And the textbook even have a little sidebar explaining what corals are.
It does. It explains that corals are the skeletons of tiny marine animals called polyps. When the polyps die, their skeletons made of calcium carbonate remain. Other polyps grow on top. Layer by layer, over thousands of years, they build up from the seafloor until they break the surface and form an island.
So Lakshadweep isn't made of rock. It's made of animal skeletons.
Essentially, yes. Calcium carbonate skeletons. This makes them incredibly fragile and vulnerable. If the sea level rises or if the ocean becomes more acidic, which dissolves calcium, these islands are in serious trouble. They're biological structures, not just geological ones.
And that's a huge difference from the Andaman and Nicobar Islands.
It's a massive difference. The Andamans in the Bay of Bengal are actually the submerged peaks of a mountain range. They are volcanic in origin for the most part. They're solid rock.
The text links the Andaman Islands to a specific disaster.
Yes, the 2004 tsunami. It poses a question. Do you know which group of islands were affected by the tsunami in 2004?
And it explains that a tsunami is a huge sea wave generated by an earthquake on the sea floor.
There's actually a child's painting in the source material labeled Tsunami Killer Waves. This directly anchors the geography to the topic of disaster management. The Andaman and Nicobar Islands are very close to the tectonic plate boundary near Sumatra. When the Earth moves there, the Andamans get hit first.
I remember Indira Point, the southernmost tip of the Indian Union in the Nicobar Islands, actually got submerged during that tsunami. The map literally changed in a day.
It did. The geography is active. It's not static. It creates, it destroys, it shifts.
So we've covered the address, the neighbors, the 3 Himalayan layers, the flat plains, the triangular plateau with its weird rift valleys, and the island outposts.
It's a complete physical scan of the nation from top to bottom.
And the text concludes by bringing it all back to that theme of unity and diversity.
It implies that these disparate regions all rely on each other. The plains need the water from the Himalayas, the plateau needs the food grown in the plains, the coasts need the minerals that come from the plateau.
It's an integrated economic system that was basically designed by nature.
But here's the final provocative thought. The so what for the future.
Go on.
Think about climate change. We discussed the danger waters and the tsunami warning in the text. Now look at the 2025 GS1 questions we have about sea level rise and its impact on island nations.
And we have those broad, flat, eastern coastal plains and the fragile coral islands of Lakshadweep.
If the sea level rises by even 1 meter, those broad plains where the deltas are, they get submerged. That's where a huge amount of our rice grows. That's where millions of people live. And the Lakshadweep Islands, they might simply cease to exist.
The map of India isn't static, it's fragile.
Exactly. The geography we discussed today, the stage for our history, is physically changing as we speak. The global address we started with. The coastline of that address might look very different in 50 years.
That is a very sobering thought. We are studying a map that is actively being redrawn by our own carbon footprint.
Indeed. Geography isn't just about where things are, it's about where things are going.
Well, on that heavy but very necessary note, I think we have to wrap up. This has been a true deep dive.
It certainly has. The fundamentals are always more interesting than they seem.
Before you go, a quick reminder. If you want to keep these deep dives coming, please subscribe to Simplified UPSC by PPP. It is the single best way to support us, and it costs you nothing.
And if you found value in this, if you learned why the Narmada flows west or why our time zone is a compromise, consider supporting us on Patreon. Every little bit helps us keep the lights on and the research flowing.
A huge shout out again to our patrons. You guys are the real MVPs.
And don't forget to grab the free notes and PYQ linkages for this chapter on our public Telegram channel. It's all there waiting for you to download.
And for the serious aspirants who want that extra edge, DM us to join the private library for the organized premium notes and those model mains answers we hinted at throughout the show.
Keep learning and stay curious.
See you in the next deep dive.